Hi, everybody. Very, very good evening to everyone here. First of all, congratulations that you decided to join and you choose to spend an hour of your Saturday in upskilling. That already puts you 90% ahead of the crowd that you're going to be competing with. So pat yourselves on the back. This is seriously very, very good commitment and interest that you're showing. And before we begin, can we just have a huge round of applause for Anaga and the Code Club team for putting this together? I think it's a great, great initiative. And, as someone who's also been a part of a club, I know the amount of back end work that is needed to put in, and make such an event possible. So just want to congratulate them and acknowledge their efforts for spreading such useful information for you folks at your college. Um,
Thank
let's
you so much, Harini. Thank you so much. It means a lot. But before you get started, I'm gonna interrupt you right here because the anchors have are here to introduce you. So, anchors, please get started.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Miss Marie Dandekar from SYCOM. I'm the member of technical team of the Code Club. It's my pleasure to introduce Miss Harini Anand, a passionate undergraduate in computer science, with a deep interest in computational cognition, machine learning, and data science, particularly at the intersection of AI and healthcare. Currently, she contributes to data and AI at IBM and has been recognized as a LinkedIn top data science voice. She has worked on projects such as predicting gene regulatory networks as a research intern at IIT Hyderabad and co-founding Dementia Care to develop cognitive tools to reduce the onset of dementia.
Also, do you know Harini has recently started a new role as a generative AI teaching assistant at PES University, furthering her commitment to education and fostering innovation in AI. On top of that, she has earned prestigious accolades, including being a Google Kaggle mentee, an AWS AI ML Scholar, and was a Harvard V23 Tech Fellow. She's also been admitted to top summer programs at institutions like Oxford University and MIT, specializing in AI applications in healthcare.
Now, coming on to her research contribution, which spans in diverse areas, including sentiment analysis with financial worth models, applications of reinforcement learning, and quantum technologies in healthcare. She has authored notable papers presented at international conferences and programs, HPAIR and GHCI, to name a few. Without further ado, I am honored to hand over the session to Ms. Harini Anand, who will undoubtedly inspire us with the knowledge and insights about remote internships opportunity and research scholarships.
Thank you so much for that very well detailed introduction. I'm so honored. Thank you, anchors. You guys have done a great job. Uh, okay, so we're all ready. Let's get started. Before we begin, I just wanted to set in some reminders for all of us. Since Anaga mentioned we have multiple people joining in, and this is an online session, so you kindly make sure that you've muted your microphone so there's no interference. And if you feel comfortable, please turn on your cameras. I'd love to see some faces of yours and send in your questions on the chat. I'll be addressing them at the end of the session. Okay, so the agenda for today's session, in this 1 hour that we have, we'll be covering some interesting things. We'll also be having some icebreakers. I'll try to keep this as engaging as possible, even though it's an online session. I hope that we can sort of speak and get to know each other, or at least interact. And I'll be providing a detailed year-wise roadmap for all the 4 years of engineering that you might be in. Some extensive tips, tricks, and resources for internships, scholarships, and research on how to get into it. What are the things you should be doing? I'll also be giving you some tips on applying for these internships and in general for job opportunities. We'll also have the Q&A, as I mentioned, and I've put together a few resources that I feel should be useful for you all. So yeah, let's begin. Also, one more thing. This is going to be a very extensive presentation, so I have a fun little activity planned for you all, as I mentioned, to keep it interactive. It would be great if you could take a screenshot of your most favorite slide of this entire session and post about it on your LinkedIn or any social media platform that's relevant to professional networking, because I'll tell you why. It'll help you increase the visibility. I'll be sharing it in my network, and as just a fun giveaway, I'd love to have the top 5 posts as people who would get one-on-one mentorship, like 30-minute session with me. So I'd love to talk to you all, have a free chat. So that's something that I look forward to seeing, something from you all. Let's begin. Who am I, right? Like, I think we can skip this slide because the anchors did a wonderful job and much better job than what I would be doing right now here. But yeah, I'm just like y'all. I'm a CSE undergrad. I come from Best University, Bangalore. I'm currently interning at IBM, and I've also done a couple of things such as being a mentee for Google Kaggle X, and been a part of multiple summer schools in my domain of interest. I also write apart from tech, and I love content creation and helping others create content. So I'm a content strategist. And yeah, that's about me. So let's begin with the original official session, right? So anytime I begin starting to talk about anything, I like to ask myself, and I'd like to make you all ask yourselves, why do we do this? Why are we choosing to put in efforts and time outside college, pursuing things outside our college curriculum? And what is the point of doing it? Because the answers that you get for these questions are going to be very personal, and a common theme would be that you want to stand out, you want to get the best jobs, there's a lot of competition, and you want to make yourself unique. But that's the thing, all of us have that, right? So then it makes it more general. You have to have a personal reason as to why you choose to put in the hours, put in the effort, and put in the work to make yourself stand out by doing these things. So just in the chat, you guys can or send in a thumbs up using the reaction. This is like a poll which I'll be clicking on. Right? We have 3 different reasons that I think are most common. Why do we need to upskill? So if you think you agree with standing out, you can put a thumbs up. And I think it'll be interesting to see how many of you all feel with the correct answer. If you think it helps your resume shine and pass the 6-second rule, you can put a thumbs up for that. And okay, let's put in different emoji, an emoji of your choice. If you think it helps you strengthen your master's application, not going to the job route, but higher studies. So is that the reason? Okay, so the answer is it's all of these. It's all of these reasons that is the answer of why one upskills, right? It's the good part is you have multiple benefits from doing by following a single goal. That is, you get to stand out, you get to have your resume shine, and it also helps you in your masters, even if you don't pursue it immediately after your undergrad. If you plan to work and then go for your masters, all of these things still are very relevant and help you highlight your profile. Okay. So as I mentioned, we'll be going through a year-wise rough detailed rough roadmap, and then I will be getting into the details of every single thing that I've done, what are the strategies I used. So yeah, for the first years here, the first and the most common mantra that I can strongly advise you to follow is apply. Any opportunity you see anywhere in your college, in your flyers, in your social media, in you hear your friends talk about some competition, some hackathon, just apply, right? Do not even think twice about it, because here's the thing: you have come out freshly from 12th grade pursuing your PCMB or PCMC, and you do not have anything that really is relevant for a recruiter from a tech perspective, right? Because even in your 12th grade, your Python is very basic. That is not sufficient for you to use it in your profile or apply anywhere. Which is why your first and foremost priority is to make that resume and to have things to add to that resume. So quick backstory, right? Here's the thing: I'm a bio student. In my 12th grade, I had chosen biology, and I did not learn computer science until I entered my college first year. So I did not have a laptop before that, so I never knew how to use a laptop, and all of those things came to me in my first year, and before that I had no exposure of it. And a year later, I happened to be one of the most skilled people in my batches in computer science, which is why I have put that quote of a lot can happen in a year. And what I'm trying to say is, you have to really understand what that year can do only if you constantly apply and try out different things without self-rejecting. So what does that mean in an actionable point of view? Learning Python is something that I strongly recommend, irrespective of what your domain of interest is. Even if you're not into AI ML, if you're into cybersecurity, or if you're into backend, or if you're into systems, Python is a universal language that can help you build very, very good projects in very less amount of time. Coming to projects, right? A lot of us get held back in a tutorial hell. What that means is you watch courses, you enroll yourselves into 10 different courses, and we just keep doing courses after courses, right? That is what we call as tutorial hell, and that's not good for us, because the goal is you learn, you do those courses, but you also have to build a project out of it. Only when you push out of that learning tutorials and courses do you actually come and build something tangible. um, Let me give you an example, right? For example, if I go to Udemy right now and I put myself up for a web development course. I'm learning about HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And then that's it. There's two options. One, I actually try out building a project. Maybe I'm making a simple website, a website about myself, or a website about something that I like. And then in my resume, there can be two different things. I can just have the course credential and the certificate that you get, or I can have the course credential, the certificate, and the project. So you can see which one is better for yourself. Another great place, I saw one of the questions in the questions that you had sent in that sheet, was there's so much of college work, there's so much courses and assignments and exam. How do we really find time to build projects or to do anything that is relevant to upskilling? The answer to that is hackathons. When you spend 24 hours, which is basically the time a hackathon is held for in your colleges or maybe other colleges in your city, or even global hackathons that are online, you are given 24 hours to just work on a project. So you are already assigning yourself that time to work on something, and there's no reason or there's no need for you to take away separate time to build a project. And for me, I thrived in hackathons. In my first year, I remember after 3 weeks of joining college, there was a hackathon, and I knew nothing. I did not even know Python at that point. I just knew the basic syntax. But I knew this tool called MIT App Inventor, which is a very basic tool, but it helps make applications. And in that hackathon, I decided to go because I knew that I will meet people who know more than me. I will meet recruiters, or I'll meet people with jobs who can help me get potential job opportunities. And I was also very excited that it was an overnight event, and I hadn't been to something like that before. Turns out I come third with my team in the competition, and we win 10,000 rupees. Now, that was not something I expected, but I realized that only if you try will you know what is possible. So, just in your first year, I want you to just not think of anything, not think of your friends, or any sort of restrictions or second self doubts that you might have, and just apply. The worst case that might happen is you might not get selected, you might lose, you might not understand it, but that's much better than not trying and not applying. Um, Another place where you can, as first years, try for getting internships instead of paying to get internships, which is a strict red flag, I think, is applying to non-profit organizations. So in your city, if you just Google non-profit organizations in sustainability or in tech, or in different sort of fields, you will find a list of organizations that work. And here, the reason they are ready to hire people who are not experienced is because they do not have a lot of competition in their applications. Very few people apply, and you can use this as a smart trick to get into their database and get some experience in your resume and your portfolio. How do you reach out to these nonprofits? You find the company, you put that up on LinkedIn. You will find people who work at that company, reach out to them, connect with them, send them a mail, and that's how you sort of get into their DMs. You really have to just slide into their DMs, if in simple words. Another thing that I would recommend first years to do is join technical clubs, because I think the exposure and the community you get is just unparalleled. And I'm sure Anaga and Mayuri and everybody over there, like at this club, are great examples of how you can become this leader of sorts and just have so much more experience under your belt. compared to maybe people who are not part of such clubs. And yeah, I think you have already had a session on Google WE, so I will just run over that because applying to that is of course beneficial, and I'm sure you're aware of it. Moving to the second year folks that are in this call, these Pinterest spins are something that really just sum up what I'm trying to say. So, in case you feel very bored listening to me, just read that, and I hope that inspires you to do the necessary things. Um, Truly, second year is where you have a little bit more wildness to yourself, and I'm serious about it because I remember in my second year, after doing different things in first year, I had a rough idea of what I liked, what I didn't like, what works, what didn't work, and I was ready to go all out in my second year, where I started reaching out to my professors for for working on research papers. I told them that, hey, I've worked on a project in this hackathon, or I've done a course on this topic, and I want to. And that professor is also teaching that subject. So, is there any opportunity for me to work under you on a research paper? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes, right? Because your university also wants to put out more publications. It's part of their NIRF requirements. So, reach out to your professors to start off with research. Applying to global mentorship programs is something that I would also uh, recommend, like KaggleX, GSOC, MLH. These are very, very global, well known programs that you can always apply to. There's going to be a lot of competition, but then again, you should definitely try and apply for these. I'll be giving you personalized tips and tricks for applying into these, and that will come in the future slides. Yeah, now you've worked in non-profits, right? Now you can move on and pivot to startups. Now startups do have some competition in their applications, but they're still much lesser than what you would expect for Google or Amazon or any of the big tech. So you are sort of scaling and growing into the network of people that you're going to be working with. And I also did the similar thing. Since my interests are in AI and healthcare, I reached out to this startup which works on cancer and they work on like deep text solutions for it. And one of the directors was a Forbes 30 on LinkedIn, and I DM'd him on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I really am passionate about this field. These are the things that I have done, which is courses, again, like the things I mentioned, projects, attending webinars, seminars, all of it. I just put everything that I had done under that message. And I had a clear ask and expectation. I was like, is there a work opportunity for me? I'm open to working for free, and then maybe once you see my work, you can pay me for it. So being flexible but also clear about your ask is very, very important. Setting up coffee chats with profs, professors, founders of core companies that align with your domain of interest is a very, very important skill. And most of us hold back because we're very shy, or we feel like we're not good enough, or we don't know what to say, right? But you all know what to say. You want to get better. That is it. So every coffee chat I have with anybody, I ask them, how do I become you? As simple as that. And that opens up so many more points of conversation because they can see that you really want something, and they appreciate your hunger for success or for becoming better. So being direct with people like these really helps. You don't need to have very complicated questions or very like well researched questions. Just go for asking your authentic real questions, and that always helps, right? And yeah, this is also where you start DSA, which is not so fun, but it's very important, especially when you come to internships in big tech or like even placements. I think second year is an ideal point to start working on your data structures and algorithms by practicing lead code, and there's a lot of resources for that as well. Okay, if you're all following along, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Third year. Uh, this is the time where you become absolutely ambitious, and you're often feeling a sense of burnout because you've been doing so much over the past 2 years, which happened to me as well. Like in my fifth sem, I felt like I was getting a little burnt out. And what that means is you get really tired of what's, like this constant pursuit of trying to become better. And there's a way to deal with it. I think That is something I will again cover in one of the future slides. But just know that you have to keep going because you're so close. You're so close to getting what you've been working for, and you really have to be like super ambitious and start applying for big tech internships. Start presenting the research that you've been working on by reaching out to your profs at conferences. Um, Try organizing at least one event in your college. It teaches you so much. It helps you give so many points in your interviews. So when I was interviewing for IBM, they had asked me about my experience as being a club head, and trust me, they get more credibility and more confidence in you when you have told them that you've worked and you've done things that are outside your curriculum, because everybody does the same courses, everybody writes the same exams. Doing things like this gives them a place to see where you can shine better, where you have an edge. So please try doing that. It can be any event, like cultural, non-cultural, technical, anything, but try doing something that talks about your organizational skills, your leadership skills, your communication skills, which are equally important. Try finding places to give talks on your domains of interest, on projects you've worked on. There's like Microsoft or Google that hosts a lot of these call for proposals. You can always Google that up, and apply to giving a talk. It might look like it's a lot of like work, or you're trying to market yourself, but that's the goal. You have to improve your visibility. Like, why will someone want to hire you? Because you're good at XYZ. And how does someone measure that? By seeing your achievements. So please try giving talks. Attending summer schools. So again, fun fact, I met somebody from your college at one of the ACM summer schools, and she now works at Microsoft. I'm sure you'll know about Aditi Oak. I think she was the topper of her batch as well. So you find a lot of smart people. You find a lot of accomplished people at these summer schools who can become your project collaborators, who can become your mentors, who can become maybe even your employers at some point. Like, the possibilities are endless. So all of these top universities, the Ivy Leagues, as they commonly call it, Carnegie Mellon, Oxford, Stanford, all of them conduct programs for international students. What you do have to do is be mindful in looking those up and being prompt in filling the applications, being early on that. And using LinkedIn to be vocal is something I cannot emphasize enough of. Everything that I've done has been because I've actively fought the social anxiety that I have and put my work up there on this and on that platform and try to grow my network there. I think being self-made comes from fighting your fears, and one such fear that I had was to sort of like talk about myself, even if I felt like it wasn't a big deal. Like winning a hackathon didn't seem like a big deal when people were like presenting at maybe the top conferences in the world. But only when you start doing small steps, you get to the big steps. So just be vocal about it and try to increase your visibility so people know about you. And for the final year students, placements is the main goal. And you honestly do not have time for doing anything else, maybe other than your final year projects. You have lots of placement tests, which is where your DSA from second year helps if you've been working on it actively. But once you have been placed, so what I did was I got placed in August and my placements started in August. So I still had 5 months of time. And what I did was I explored research assistantships in universities. I pursued a few of them. I applied for a lot of them. Like, you sort of set your base up for the next steps. And just explored what GRE and masters look like for me. So yeah, these are things that you do, and you want to see these words of being approved, accepted, and you really have to like fake it till you make it. I genuinely believe in it, because once you make it, you know that it's true, right? You cannot build that overnight. You have to continuously put in efforts for 4 years, and then it happens. Okay, so coming to the detailed tips, tricks, and resources for internships, scholarships, and research, I have listed a few out. Let me just begin with it. So, common general tips that apply for everything you do, in my opinion. Like, these are tips, right? So, let me just start off with the first tip, which is you have to be authentic. And what I mean by that is, in my college, there were 1,000 students. In your college, I'm sure there's like 1,000 students. Like that in India, there's so many students who are applying for the same job. the same position, and you're a part of this herd, right? And the way you stand out is by being authentic. For example, I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan for multiple reasons. I think she's a great example of ambition, of being talented, being relentless. So how did I use that side of me into my personal brand was by starting a newsletter where I explain tech, where I explain my understanding of AI and data using Taylor Swift references. And in 3 weeks, it hit more than 500 subscribers. Let me tell you, not all 500 of them was 50s, but they were interested in seeing what is it and what is that authentic uh, flavor to this newsletter that's different from a lot of the AI or data newsletters that you might find. So find what makes you you, your interests. Maybe there's a skill that you have, and try putting that out in your applications. And trust me, that makes you stand out much more than anything else will. Failures are so important because let me tell you, when I was applying for my placements, I applied off campus to about more than 150 people, and only 10 people had reached back. So 140 rejections was enough to make me feel like I was not good enough. And if somebody who's done so many things might feel like they're not good enough, I think anybody will feel, right? And that's where you have to really focus on being relentless, because when you're relentless, you fight through each of those failures. And even another side of being relentless that I actively vouch for is networking, right? Some people don't respond to your mails, some people never read your outreach efforts. But I had been, so one example is I had been outreaching to this one person who was a great thought leader. Her name is Aishwarya Srinivasan, and she's on LinkedIn. I would suggest you to follow her. She's great at what she does and a great source of inspiration. She had not seen any of my messages or probably hadn't been interacting with me, but for 3 years and on, I had been engaging, being sincere with it. And finally, at one point, I think it worked. She could finally see what I was talking about, or she finally reached back, and to the point now she sends me gifts from California when as a mentor. And if I told my 2021 self that the person who hasn't probably reached back to you is now a very close friend, it would be crazy, right? Which is why you really have to be relentless, because anything is really possible. Being proactive is another thing that I would urge you all to do. Instead of waiting for somebody to tell you what to do, or waiting for somebody to give you this job or to give you any opportunity, you try and go find it. You try and figure out, what can I do better, what can I learn, what can I make out of my current situation to make it better. Just constantly being in that mind frame helps. And yeah, asking. I think, in my recent, this week was my first week of interning at IBM. And one of the program directors had mentioned that as well, like the power of asking and not self rejecting. So even in the corporate space, this is a skill that is heavily emphasized on, and if you hone it from your first year, you're going to be a seasoned, excellent professional by the time you hit corporate, which is awesome, right? So yeah, these were some general tips that I had, which is very, very important. And trust me, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Okay, these are some more tips before I get into the techniques and everything. Okay, so when you are writing your applications for scholarships, summer schools, job opportunities, please don't use ChatGPT or any AI for your answers, which I understand. Maybe we want to use it to make uh, our application better, more well worded, etc. But it automatically gets your application rejected. So imagine putting in so much work and for it to get automatically rejected because you used an AI tool. Kindly refrain from doing this. Always follow up with your initiatives. So every time you send a mail or a message to someone, after 2 days, you only have to have the onus of sending in a periodic reminder. And this shows your keen interest. Everybody, like especially professors and recruiters, they get 1,000 mails every single day. What makes you stand out is you following up, you showing that you are really interested in it, and being relentless, as I had previously mentioned. And working in iterations. So please don't wait till the last minute to submit anything or to work on any project. work on it in batches, where your first batch is shitty. You already know that your expectations of it is that it's not going to be great. You just want a first basic version, because quality is built over time with every revision. This applies to your resume, your application, your drafts, and this can make or break your case. And I think this is something you should really take a mental note of. Okay, so before we begin with the specific scholarships and research programs, I need you all to sort of just take a minute and understand what are the key components of your portfolio. And trust me, this portfolio is like your passport. You're going to use it, rather your Aadhaar card, you're going to use it everywhere. Your portfolio or your resume, I want you to take a look at it uh, after you go through the slide with me. An ideal resume should have coursework where you highlight your key subjects and you ace them with insights and certifications, which is basically your college stuff, right? That is just 20% of your resume, but it is a 20% of your resume. Like, you highlight your core subjects there. Like, for me, it was data structures, it was computer networks, operating systems. These were some core computer science subjects. Now, if you're from a different background of engineering, make sure you highlight those. Next comes your work experience. Again, this is only 20% of it, where you seek hands on experience through roles and you focus on impactful contributions. Working in a startup and doing something very impactful is 100 times better than working in a big tech and doing very minimal or menial work. uh, if I had to choose between working at a startup, which is not that famous but is offering me to work on building an end-to-end application, versus working at a big tech where I'm working on perhaps documentation, I would choose startup and that role, because initial years of your career, you need to really have that impactful work, because the brand doesn't matter as much as the work you do, which is very important. Coming to projects, you have to create diverse real world solutions. So building a tic-tac-toe or building a Python, you know, a Sudoku game, which is something that I've seen literally on every profile. It's good to learn about maybe backtracking or some techniques, but it's not supposed to be your final project that you put up on your resume. They can be your practice projects. So another tip, a very useful tip that I really value, is making projects that can be converted to papers. I worked on a cryptocurrency project which then became a paper, and that paper got me a speaker nomination at Intuit. So just being mindful of the kind of projects you pick up, right, helps you build that into papers. So it's like you win twice with the same goal. But yeah, definitely publish papers. Even if you're completely a developer, I think having some research experience shows your novelty and your ability to have core engineering skills and expertise in your field of interest. And finally, achievements, which is again 20% of your portfolio, right? This is where all the scholarships and the awards that you win come in, and that shows your excellence. So you see, none of them are 100%, and you have to balance all of these things out in these ratios in your portfolio. Only then is it a good portfolio. If I have only achievements on my resume without any coursework, then it's not a good resume. So just make sure that when you look at yours, this is the framework that you follow. And another tip that one of my mentors had given me is to maintain a brag document. And what that is it's a Word doc which has all your achievements in it. This helps you get promotions or even get into places. So when I started out interning at a startup, right, I was paid X amount of money. But over the period of time I interned, I was able to contribute more than what they had expected. So because of that, I had maintained a brag document, as I just mentioned. I had listed what are the things I did, what was expected of me, what I did in addition, and how that benefited them. And I used that document to get me a 30% raise in my own internship, in my own salary. So, which they were happy to give because I could show them clearly why I expected that raise. So things like this are, key points that I would definitely want you all to take away. Okay. So again, I'm someone who loves reflection, That's a common theme with me. So that's why I'm heavily focusing on that before getting into the nitty gritty of things. Just plot yourself on a graph where you have 12th grade as your starting point and you have fourth year or whichever year you are currently at, and check in if you are in the path to your dreams. And they can change. It changed with me. I remember in 12th grade I wanted to be a data scientist, but when I came to my second year, I realized that it kind of kept me in a very small bracket of a career choice, which is why I decided to make it more generalist and choose to become, a software developer. But if I hadn't constantly assessed that, I would have just become a data scientist, I guess, or I would have continued with a dream that wasn't relevant to me anymore. And how do you judge this relevancy is by trying different things out, right? And the sooner you do this, the more chances you have of a better career. Like I could have been a data scientist and then done a lot of other things, and it's a much more tedious process to then jump into some other field, right? So just make sure you're constantly checking in with your path because they can change. And also reflecting helps you figure out what you need to cut down. For me, I think things that I did cut down was a lot of the other clubs that I was part in, other than the one that I headed, that was pulling me down with the amount of engagements. So since I had done it for 2 years, I decided that I will cut it down in my third year, and that helped me focus more on better stuff. So just make sure you have a growth mindset and you're optimizing for progress over perfection. Like that is so important because it's so hard to constantly motivate yourself. But if you see the progress you're making on a daily basis, that pulls you through an entire year. Moving to the next slide. Oops. Yeah. So this is where we begin the detailed tricks that I have up my sleeve that I'm hoping will help you all. Yeah. Kaggle is one of the global mentorship programs that I got accepted to in my second year. I won $1,000 as an educational grant, and I got mentorship from applied scientist from Microsoft. So how did I end up here? Like, how did I get to that stage? Is my internet is my best friend. I looked up for the domain and mentorship programs. So as I mentioned, data science was something I was passionate about. So I searched the internet, data science mentorship programs, and I put that up on my Google search bar, and I got a list of things, and that's where I stumbled upon Kaggle. I suggest you all to do the same with your domain interests. Follow thought leaders on these topics because they regularly share opportunities, and they are like basically your Instagram but for the topic of your interest. How do I find these thought leaders? Look for top voice badges on LinkedIn. So if you're into ML, then top voice ML people can be your thought leaders. If you're into different domains, like just follow that. That's a good filter in my opinion. Any program or mentorship that you apply for, just look at the past cohorts and connect with the past people who've been accepted on those kind of programs on LinkedIn or any on Twitter to know. And you can always set up a coffee chat with them to ask them, hey, I see that you've been accepted to this program. I'm planning to apply. I just want to connect with you to understand what the program is looking for in their applicants, or some tips or some doubts that I have. And they're the best people for you to solve those doubts. You can also look at their experience section and like look at their profile to understand what the program is looking for and optimize yours according to that. It's a free technique, right? Ask for your feedback from people that you trust, like your seniors or professors, to improve the quality of your submission. Sometimes we get very biased with our own answers, so having an outside perspective helps in understanding if it's actually that good or if it could be better. And have a good profile on platforms like Kaggle. One of my other mentors, who's a director in EY, she mentioned that these recruiters look for your profiles on GitHub, on Kaggle, and your consistency matrix there, which is like this green box with multiple, smaller squares. It shows your contribution activity, right? So if you're consistent, it'll be green or it'll be fully colored, and that is a very, very niche, I would say, metric, but it's very important. So if you automatically pass the bar that they're looking for in terms of technical competence. Okay. So that's about the Global Mentorship Program. GHCI is Grace Hopper Conference in India, which is for women specifically, and it's a technical conference. It's the largest, if I'm not wrong. How did I find this? I looked up global community platforms. So these are keywords that often help you find more opportunities, maybe more than even I've looked into. So just make sure you use this and keep this in mind. What helps me in my applications for these kind of conferences is being active in my campus community and club events to show proof of work of my engagements. And these like conferences also have webinars and seminars, and they have a time period where they have this concept called a breakout room, where they put people into smaller groups and they ask you to exclusively network, which is very cool. I wouldn't be able to network with someone from Amazon who's a program director or a distinguished engineer if not for things like this, right? Why would they want to talk to me unless we have the same interest? So this is a great place. And what I used to do is then I would go follow up on LinkedIn and connect with them, saying that hey, we just met in this conference or webinar. I'd love to like learn more about XYZ that I spoke to them about. And that's how you get their connection request accepted. Highlight your passion for wanting to give back to the community. What are the efforts that you put in? The mission your that aligns with the program's mission. So for me, that aligned is wanting to give back in terms of education, especially for women. And because of that, I feel like my profile got shortlisted. Like, it was one of the reasons. And have a personal USP. So what do you mean by personal USP? It's basically a unique selling proposition for yourself that is exclusive for you. Like, there are so many people who are into data, AI or ML or any of the things that I'm into, but there's specific things about me that make me me. You have to like also dig in and look at for yourselves. Coming to summer schools, I looked up domain and university and programs for international students. Key point is international because most of them are US based and they offer it only to US based students, which is not useful for us. So make sure you keep that keyword of international students when you're looking up for these programs. Then what I did was I reached out to the professors who are teaching that course by emailing them. And this is a much more relevant subject and a more unique subject, saying that, hey, you are teaching ML in Oxford and I'm interested in it versus internship in your lab, right? This latter gets like 500 of the same type. This might not be as common. So use that and become a familiar face. Then again, reaching out to alumni of that school, that program helps you understand good profiles that get accepted. And another thing is when you're applying for specific domain based opportunities, you have to make a separate resume where you're highlighting only things that are only relevant to that domain. So I did this thing where I asked, does this line fit ML related stuff? Yes, no. If it was no, I removed it. So then it becomes a very concrete ML based resume for that ML based program. Similarly, for networks, you do that, and so on and so forth with your interests, which is very important. We do not use the same resume for all the opportunities. You tailor make it for the requirements to highlight your domain expertise. And then you also have to follow up on your applications. Be very eager, you know, don't worry about spamming them. Trust me, they don't uh, mind that at all. Coming to research papers, this was something that I also wanted to cover. Look up professors in your university who are subject matter experts. Already, like, so I remember I went in with a problem statement where I said that, hey, I love reinforcement learning. Can I, there's like a, bottleneck in that domain. I want to work on that. The professor was more happy to assist me than some other student who was like, I just want to work on research with you, right? Having clarity helps. So before you go approach them, just have a few problem statements in mind, helps a lot. Connect with researchers to learn about papers. Oh, this is great because I don't know how many of you all know Google DeepMind, but it's like the number one for research. And I remember my first white paper, right, in my first sem or first year, was with this DeepMind researcher. I had DM'd him on LinkedIn, and he offered to mentor me on my white paper, which is crazy. Like, I never thought that would happen, but I think it's a very useful tip. please look up papers on archive or on Google Scholar, find the scholar, go on LinkedIn. It's a lot of manual work, but trust me, this helps. Connect with them and ask them for collaboration opportunities. And while working, just be very prompt. Do exhaustive literature survey, and what that means is make sure you have good enough information of what already exists in that domain or what exists in terms of solving for that problem statement, because then you can think of ways to improve them. This is very, very important for research, and this stands out in your quality of papers as well. Take a lot of risks and apply to conferences that are renowned. Don't hold back and apply for local conferences, because chances are you might get accepted to like newer IPS and ICML. Like people from my college did that, even though we're undergraduates, right? And the common norm for those conferences is PhD students. An undergrad got in, so just go for it. And key tip is make sure their scopus indexed and have proceedings of more than 10. These are like good ethics while applying for conferences. Yeah, and that's how I got to publish 8 papers in 8 sems, and now I'm filing a patent for one. I'm very happy about that. uh, 1 second. Yes. Coming to other scholarship programs that aren't technical but perhaps are important profile additions, is the fact that O'Reilly was one of it. It's a publication, if you've looked into it, right? It's a publication that provides a lot of quality books, and each of those books are a minimum of 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, which is a lot for someone like me who's a middle class Indian, right? But what I did was I looked up these platform and tool specific scholarships, and I highlighted, they had like a application, and I highlighted that, hey, I come from a background where I can't have unlimited access to these resources other than my libraries, but I definitely want to learn more. These are the things I have done, so I think I have merit to want to learn more. And the company decided to sponsor 1 year of free membership for me, where I had unlimited access to all books, all courses, you name it, anything of O'Reilly, I had free access to, right? Which is great. And that happened because I was vocal and visible about my chances, about my merit, about my interests, which is all of that added up. And make good use of the scholarship. What I did was I understood that, like, okay, now I have access to graph neural networks. I used that in my final year project. And yeah, so things like that, like those are state of the art architectures, which is what SOTA stands for. And using these courses to build projects with those kind of architectures helps your resume, helps you build better projects, and sort of replug your personal brand. Yeah. And coming to the AI ML AWS scholarship, a lot of big tech also offers these scholarships. Google, Amazon, Apple, Uber, you know, they all have like a lot of scholarships. So please look up and like apply for those, and understand the goals, the eligibility, the evaluation criteria. Again, tailor your application to align with their goals, their mission, and highlight relevant projects so you can show that it's very fitting and apt for them. They won't be able to reject your application because it's so perfectly aligned, right? But if I have something that's not relevant, they might reject it. And you really have to make sure they don't reject your application. They also have these essays as part of the application where you have to mention your goals, be articulate, talk about how the money or the scholarship helps you, and be very authentic about it. And that's what I did. Take up skill tests ethically. So these people have a lot of these orgs have a lot of skill tests which are DSA based, and I've seen a lot of people use other resources to do it. The thing is, they can easily blacklist you, and once they blacklist you, you will not be allowed to sit for any of their company interviews, even in the future, even 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. So it's not very cool to get banned by one of the top companies, right? So just be ethical about it and brush up your basic concepts. You'll be able to do very, very well in. And these are another set of fellowships which are community based but technical from reputed universities. So Harvard is a dream university for everybody. I'm pretty sure about that. So look up your dream universities, and they have so many programs. Just Google them, sit with them, understand what are the things that they offer, see what aligns with you. And Your applications, especially for community based ones, share examples of how you've led teams, started initiatives, contributed to your community beyond academics, right? Your GPA is one thing, but what is beyond your GPA is what helps you in these kind of programs. Highlighting your extracurricular achievements, which is why I mentioned earlier, participate in technical clubs, organize at least one event, all of that will come in use here. You have to highlight your experiences, your cross cultural competence, and these like cultural events. If you've participated in a dance competition some other university, or like all of that comes in use here. Don't worry about it, so apply for it, participate in it, as it all comes in use at some point. And when you're writing your statement of purpose, again, be very unique and authentic about it. Coming to internships, remote internships especially. So my first internship in tech was a remote internship at this company in Singapore. How I landed, again, LinkedIn. What I did was put deep learning because that's what I had learned at that point. And they were, you know, open to having, I did not get paid for it. So it was a free internship, but I got a certificate for it and I got to build a project. My first deep learning project where I learned about vanilla neural networks was there. Look for it in places where they are going to be posting. The thought leaders that I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn, Twitter. Twitter is again a great place, or X as we now know it. Be very active in these platforms and you will find these internships. Research the company. So recruiters are very happy when you know more about the company than perhaps they do. It's a very good tip. Tailor your resume for the specific description. So very important tip is when you see a LinkedIn job posting, there will be a requirements section, right, in that text. Take that requirement section and see against your resume what's fitting and what's not. Make sure it's very tailored to that. You have to make a separate resume for every application. This is something which is very hard to do, but it's very useful. So please make sure you do that. Practice common interview questions. Geeks for Geeks is a great place. Demonstrate your problem solving skills. Again, need code for it, and have examples of like your work and everything. So basic, every interview you go to will have questions about who are you, what do you do, etc. So have prepared answers for it, so you don't have to think much. You're more confident, and it helps you become more better as a candidate. And if you're applying for remote ones, they also ask for cover letters. Apart from your resume, you write a two-page essay on why you're fit for the role and why the company should hire you. And that is where you like really highlight your enthusiasm. And yeah, with that, we come to the last part of this. I know we're running short on time. I'll take 10 minutes more maximum. I hope that's okay. Awesome. So when you're doing community participation, please attend events. So meetups. I spent my weekends going to one or the other event. Wasn't sitting at home because I was like, even if I don't know Golang, I will go there and I will learn about whatever I can. Your presence here really helps you become knowledgeable and build a network. It's always easier to connect with someone you've met somewhere than just them being a face and a profile on LinkedIn, right? Share your experience, expertise, volunteer for initiatives. I volunteered for one conference that was not even relevant to my domain, but I knew that it'll connect me with leaders. So I met folks from Atlassian, from lots of top companies, and it was a big data conference. I was helping them do like organizational operation stuff, which wasn't technical, right? But it got me in their network. And after that, I had been offered to like talk about my work, my ML experience, and yeah, basically you get lots of visibility. Keep track of your achievements. The brag document is very important, and join the communities that align with your interests. So that's how I got into WIDS, which is a Stanford community for data science. While reaching out, best way to look for people is who has your dream role. Like I had so many people who had my dream role. Just reach out to them. Like that's how you find people, right? That's how you get those names. And make sure you leverage your perspective. So what I did as an inexperienced person was I asked them a lot of questions that would help them think better about their project or whatever they're working on. And everybody loves talking about themselves. Use that, right? If you ask them, hey, can you tell me how did you get this job, or what do you do at your job, what makes you really good at your job, they're happy to talk about it. And then personalize your approach. I think these are things that I've covered. And respect the person's time. Be prompt if you're like, having a call with them. Respect their time, and end with a very clear ask. Do not be vague about it. Do not ask them for a job directly, because that's not their, unless they're a recruiter, uh, that's not their role. You can ask them for advice. You can ask them for mentorship, feedback. Those are more actionable requests that you can ask. LinkedIn 101. If I'm very proud of one thing, I would say it's my LinkedIn, because I genuinely, as I mentioned, right, someone who's very like introverted is now like on, I mean, like, compared to my expectation of what I would have been on LinkedIn versus who I am right now, I think it's really because of these benefits. I got to meet people who I've never met in real life from different countries, who've given me opportunities. I've become a part of their circle. So every time I do something, they repost my work. I get more visibility, and that is because I strategically connected with those people. I was true to my profile. I did not lie about it, and I was very mindful with what I was engaging on, because there's some posts that are like derogatory, or that are not very, maybe they're funny, sure, but do you really have to react there is something you have to think about, because it's all visible. And improve your search engine optimization. So if I'm looking up your name as a recruiter, or anybody, like even if I'm networked with you, your LinkedIn should be something that comes up on top. It comes up on top when you actively invest in it. So, another final story. Opportunities are endless, right? Um, Even the things that once rejected you come back and reach out to you when you pursue you versus you. And this is something, if my mother allowed, I would have tattooed that thing on my hand, but she doesn't. So what I'm trying to talk about is the fact that I had applied to Google for at least 10, 12 times. And I had got rejected for various reasons. Maybe my DSA wasn't good enough, my resume wasn't good enough. But after I had got placed in August, this came in September, where a recruiter from Google had reached out to me for a full time position. And it was solely based on my profile. I did not need to do any DSA or any sort of preliminary tests. And this was a good example for me personally to know that, okay, the fact that I've invested so much time and effort got me opportunities from places I had once been rejected by. So that was very motivating for me. And with that, we just come to the Q&A time. Do you guys have any questions for me? If not, I will answer. You can put it in the chat, and meanwhile, I'll answer some of the questions that were earlier shared. Okay, so I will cover questions that I have not already answered in my presentation or in my session. So, niche technologies. I'd say right now, the one of the most niche technologies that I can see booming is agentic AI, which is one step more advanced than generative AI, which I think is a great space. I'm personally biased towards AI because I like it. But if you're looking for niche technologies, I think that's something you can read into. Agentic AI, RAGs, these are concepts that I think you should know about. All information about internship and placement, right? So that comes from your placement cells if you're doing on campus. If it's off campus, it's just you have to be very mindful of where you're applying, looking into the requirements and things like that. Okay. There's a question on the chat, right? Let me just see that. So Shreya asks, what if I don't know what is my dream role as of now as a second year student? How do I figure out the path forward? Excellent question, and kudos for you for asking that question. It's good if you don't know your dream role in second year, because you are not supposed to know it in second year. You have not like, as a second year student, we haven't explored enough just yet to know what that is. That clarity comes in your sixth semester when you're applying for jobs, which is why you apply in your first year and your second year to as many different things and see what made you, feel good. What did you have fun doing? For me, I remember my first year, I tried Flutter in mobile app development as something I applied for. I did not enjoy it much, but I had tried it out. Similarly, I had tried MongoDB and a bunch of different tools and tech stacks, and then I was able to eliminate what I don't like. So once you know what tech stacks you like, You then look up what job roles need that tech stack. And once you know what those job roles are, you figure out what is the career path for that, like how do I get to that position, and that's how you find your dream role. So to answer your question, you first have to explore a lot of things, eliminate what you don't like, and then backtrack to the tech stack used to build your dream role. Okay, so yeah, what is the right time to search for internships for first year students? As I said, as soon as you feel like, just like I remember I had 10 minutes every day where I would spend on my Gmail after subscribing to newsletters, for technical newsletters. And every time I got a break, I would go up on LinkedIn. And as you interact with the algorithm, it'll start giving you things, right? So if you have a good time period, like, you know, it's in line with your exam schedule or things like that, go for it. There's no right time as such, but make sure it's fitting your schedule as conveniently as possible. And will we really get internships? Yes. As a bio student, if I got a deep learning internship, I'm pretty sure you guys with much better skill sets will get an internship. And here's the thing: think of yourself as a NGO or a non-profit or a startup founder. You cannot pay 1 lakh for a developer, but you can pay maybe 15K for a developer intern. So even from their point of view, they can they can like afford people who don't need that much pay, or they can have more resources in terms of interns to get the same job done than hiring one whole individual for a permanent position. So it if you start like putting yourselves in their shoes, you can also make better decisions on where to apply and will you get accepted and things like that. uh, how to find remote internships? Internet, just Google, LinkedIn, things like that. You can literally type remote internships and you find that. Okay, there's some more questions on the chat. Sakshi asks, what if I'm trying to get into technical clubs but I'm not getting selected? What are the errors in me that I should figure out? Okay, firstly, there's no errors in you. I don't think that's a you issue. It's basically the club figuring out what they need and what they don't need. So if you're not getting into the clubs, what you can do, or what I did was I participated in their events and I won, or I tried to like shine there in the events that they held, and that was my positioning of telling the club head that, hey, I think I had a good time and this is where I can contribute in making the club better. And if you're asking for my experience, I just participated in your event and I came X place or like first place or things like that. So they're more often going to want to take you in because every club wants to be better in terms of their outreach. They want active participation. So if you're very vocal about it, you can try getting into those clubs. Rushali asks, as a first year student, how can I begin with research projects? As someone who knows nothing about working in research, how should I start? And confidence. Okay, great question. Uh, Reach out to your professor who is working or maybe reach out to a professor you're very comfortable with, like you feel easy enough to talk to. Just reach out to them saying that I want to work on a research project. And as I mentioned, have some problem statements or themes you want to work in. It's good to have zero experience, but if you have sincerity and if you're prompt in your work, every professor will want to work with you. You can build the experience as you build the paper, right? Because the first section of building a paper involves a lot of reading, which is not like technical. You just have to read a lot of papers, bring in insights, tell the professor. They will, that's how it works. So just make sure you reach out to your professors and learn whatever is needed on the go. Step one is reaching out. Okay. In the interest of time, if there's other questions, I shall answer them on a Google form, like if it's shared. I'll just move on to some final takeaways that I had, which I hope resonates with you all. So if you didn't listen, if you guys were like bored, slept off, this is a good summary of it. And I would say just make sure you're tailoring every application to anything you apply. Customize your resume, your statement of purpose to highlight relevant skills. You start early and stay consistent. Do not wait for the last minute. And some of them, or some most of these opportunities are on a rolling basis. So if they get enough applications, they won't even look at yours if you submit late. So be early, network intentionally, connect with people in order to seek something, not just be associated with them in terms of clout. That is something that I can't emphasize enough on. Showcase impactful work, highlight your projects that demonstrate problem solving. Make sure there's something unique about your project. It's not hard, you just have to think and spend enough time with it. Focus on your clarity and structure. Anytime you communicate professionally, be very concise, respectful in your emails, applications, interviews. They will be more likely to respond back to you. And ask for feedback. Be open to be seen trying. You don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be the best. What you do have to be is consistent and relentless. For me, I have a vision board that in my first year was a one page A4 size. Now it's a 9-page A4 size. And that's because at every year I visualized the highest self of myself and I showed up in that form. And I would urge you all to do the same. Make your vision boards and go at it with your goals. These resources are hyperlinked, so I will share the slide deck with you all. You can click on these and look into that. One of them is my newsletter that I would like to talk about, which is called 15 Tech. It's I talk about a lot of these opportunities in depth. I talk about the state of the art architectures, concepts, so you can subscribe to it if you feel like you want to learn more in the space of data and AI. And with that, thank you so much for attending. Make sure you connect with 5 people, you apply to 5 different things, and you add 5 career goals to your vision board because it's 2025. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or X. I've again hyperlinked my links on that, which you can access once you get access to the slide deck. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, guys. I'm done.
Harini, what should I say? You were amazing. It was an amazing session. And one thing that I'd like to highlight is you were so clear and detailed about everything, right? I think everybody will agree to it, and I can already see that applause. Uh, I think Code Club has made the best decision to have you today. And so generally we don't get to listen to such practical tips, right? And all these things people generally miss out on during their engineering days. It is mostly related to directly towards their final year or third year, but these things really make you stand out from the crowd. And as you rightly mentioned, when we have thousands of people applying to some position, to make us stand out, we must be having some kind of a placard which says that yes, choose me. And you rightly mentioned all those points, and we are really inspired. And I would like to thank my co-head here, Anushka Kulkarni. She's always been so supportive in arranging everything. And anchors, anything that you would like to add and say to Harini?
Thank you so much. I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude for taking the time to share your valuable insights on securing remote internships and research scholarships. Your session was not only informative but incredibly motivating, like really motivating. And your expertise and the practical advice that you provided, it has really opened our eyes to so many new opportunities and possibilities, perhaps. And we are confident that your guidance will help many of us take the next step in our academic and professional journeys. Thank you once again for your time, effort, and encouragement. It was such a great session.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I feel so happy that I was able to be a part of this. And you guys are so lovely, so confident, so ambitious. I'm so excited that we're all part of this community and we're trying to become better. We're all on our own timeline. And yeah, it's best to be, champion our own wins and be our biggest cheerleaders. So, on that note, thank you so much. And I can't wait to see all the amazing things every one of you do.
A reminder to everyone, as Harini has like given us the opportunity to have a one-on-one session with her. Everyone, please do post on LinkedIn about this session so you can win that one-on-one mentorship with her.
Yes, and even otherwise, I mean, I'm more than happy to talk to you all. Just send me a message, and we can always find some time and catch up. I'd love to do that. it brings me a lot of happiness, and I get a lot of inspiration as well. So please don't hold back, and yeah, talk to you guys soon.
Absolutely. So sweet of you, Harini. And at this moment, we'd like to lock this moment and click a picture.
Sure,
So,
sure.
so this is going to go up on LinkedIn. So anybody who's interested from the audience to come on camera, please, we'll have a group picture.
I can keep the first slide if that helps.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah. Sure.
okay, great.
That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Woohoo! That was a great evening.
Indeed, indeed.
Okay, have a lovely day, guys. Have a lovely weekend, and all the very best to every one of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harini, once again from the bottom of our heart. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
attending. And I
you.
hope this session was really beneficial. And we have so many events lined up for you all this year. And we'll ensure that we'll give you the right guidance for second year students. You guys have your internship interviews and everything coming up. We are here to guide you. And oh, I can already see all those things. So excited about it. Always there for you guys. So do take part in competitions, as she said. So our Tech Fest is coming up. We have arranged something really exciting for you. Be part of it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye. Thank you so much.